10 days on a life raft, that right?
Yeah.
How'd you keep track of the days?
Dobbs, he kept a diary.
Just you two on the raft?
Ah, Jim Conway was with us.
Conway, the playboy?
That's what I said.
Well, where is he? What happened?
He died. Come on!
All right, boys, get moving. Now we'll get some.
Hi, Mike. Good morning.
Have you seen it yet? Tim wrote it. Pretty good story.
Naturally, if Rourke wrote it, it's got to be good. By the way, did you call the cleaners?
Yes, I did, and I talked to Mr. Franks personally. He'll have your suits here today for sure.
Good. Say, you want to call down to the drugstore and get me some coffee, please?
Yes. Oh, there's a lady waiting in your office.
Who?
Mrs. Conway, the Playboy's widow.
I'll tell you what, ask her if she'd like some coffee and tell her I'll be right in.
Oh, Mike. I interviewed 4 guards for night replacement at Bracken Brothers. Field seems to have the best reference. I told him if he took it on temp, we'd find something permanent for him.
All right, fine, Ed.
Did Consolidated reach you?
Yeah, they're still beefing about the new security budget for the plant. They think it's too high.
They can't get adequate protection for any less.
Yeah, I know that. I told them to take it up on them Friday. Don't worry about it.
All right.
No, just the one coffee. Oh, do you want any coffee, Ed?
No, thanks.
Miss Conway? Sorry to keep you waiting.
Oh, that's all right. I didn't have an appointment.
Won't you sit down?
Thank you. I don't know if you've seen the morning papers, Mr. Shayne.
I did, Mrs. Conway. I'm sorry.
It's come as such a shock, I don't know how. Oh. Do you know any of the details, Mr. Shayne?
I just scanned the papers, Mrs. Conway. Why don't you fill me in?
Well, excuse me.
Thanks, Liz.
Are you sure I can't get you some coffee, Mrs. Conway?
No, thank you.
Listen, if Hayes calls, tell him I took care of that one.
Yes.
Thanks.
Mr. Shayne, with my husband's death, quite a large sum of money becomes involved. By the terms of his uncle's will, he was to come into something between $300,000 and $400,000 on his 30th birthday.
How old was he?
29. His 30th birthday was the 13th of this month. The schooner sank on the 9th.
Well, if it can be proven, Mrs. Conway, that he was alive on the 13th on the raft, then the money would go to you.
But if he died before that date, before the inheritance was legally his, the money reverts to his family. His mother and his stepfather.
Where do they live, Mrs. Conway? Here in Miami?
Yes. His mother's really a very nice woman, but I don't know what kind of man she married. He knew the date that Jim was due to come into that money. He went out of his way to arrange for the trip on the schooner. I'm almost positive that Mr. Radford...
Radford, he's the stepfather?
Yes, Tom Radford. He claims he's a lawyer.
Mrs. Conway, why haven't you gone to the police?
Well, I have no real proof.
Well, if I understand you, Mrs. Conway, you'd like to retain me to keep an eye on the 2 seamen in case somebody tries to bribe them.
Mr. Radford murdered Jim by arranging for the schooner to sink. I want him to pay for it.
All right, Mrs. Conway. My fee is $100 a day. If you leave a retainer with my secretary...
Until the money matter is settled, I don't know how I'll pay you. You see, I'm a school teacher.
Never mind, Lucy.
I've been supporting Jim and myself. We didn't mind being broke. We were waiting for the day when...
That's all right, Miss Conway. We'll forget about the retainer. A friend of mine covered the story. Perhaps there's something he has that he hasn't printed. Rourke, please. At home? Thanks.
I don't know how to thank you, Mr. Shayne.
Mrs. Conway, I said we'd skip the retainer. not my fee.
I understand.
Tim, on that playboy who died on the raft, do you have anything else on that story that you haven't printed?
Every last detail. Almost hour by hour. Dobbs, one of the survivors, kept a diary. He's letting me quote from it.
You have the diary there now?
Yeah. Hold it a second. There's somebody at the door.
I think we have something.
What?
One of the seamen on the raft kept a diary. Would prove the exact date of your husband's death.
Mike! Mike!
Tim! Tim! Wait here, I'll be back. Listen, stay near the phone.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Brooks. Consolidated account is still up in the air.
It figured.
Yeah. Plug me with something.
Yeah, that's right. The diary's missing. Whoever it was, that's what he was after.
Huh? Oh, play that part big. It's worth 3 columns easy. Yeah. I'm talking to the paper.
Uh-huh.
Huh? No, I haven't had time to call the police yet. It just happened. Anyway, Michael Shayne is here now.
Flattering, I'm sure.
Oh, my boss sure hates private detectives.
I thought you'd be dead by now.
Disappointed?
About the diary being stolen?
Yes.
That makes 2 of us, buddy. Oh, just leave a dime beside the telephone.
Lucy, I'm over at Tim's place. No, he's fine. Listen, have Ed take Mrs. Conway to lunch. I don't know, the Seashell will be all right. Tell him I'll meet them there. And you get on over to that hospital and find out everything you can about the 2 seamen who were taken off the raft this morning. Yeah, right away. Bye.
You sure order her around.
It's only because I pay her.
Excuse me, will you?
How'd the guy who broke in here know you'd be home? Second, how'd he know where you lived? Easy.
I'm listed in the phone book. Clever? Oh, hello, Alice. It's me again. I have any calls this morning? Man, about 20 minutes ago.
That was me.
Oh. Woman about an hour or so ago? Uh-huh. That all? Thanks, Alice.
How do you know the diary was here?
Maybe Alice can tell us.
Oh, it's very funny.
Where are you going?
To see Alice.
Oh. Oh, very funny.
Oh, Mr. Radford?
Yes?
I wonder if I could have a word with you.
Who are you?
I'm representing Mrs. Ann Conway.
I want no part of you or her. Now, just leave us alone.
Mr. Radford.
My wife's sick. Right now, she's grieving over the death of her son.
I'm sorry, Mr. Radford, but supposing the boy had lived beyond the 13th of the month, which was his birthday, then you and your wife wouldn't be entitled to any of the money.
I've asked you to leave.
What's in the briefcase, Mr. Radford?
Whatever's in there is mine.
If it's a day-to-day diary kept on the life raft, it belongs to a sailor named Dobbs. Well, if it isn't in there, what are you hiding, Mr. Radford?
I'm only protecting my right to privacy. A right I'm sure you intend to violate. And I know my rights. Now get out of my office.
All right, Mr. Radford.
Hi, Mike.
Ed, Miss Conway.
Oh, Mr. Brooks called again. He'd like to make the Friday meeting at the plant if it's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, I'd better get back to the office or maybe some calls.
What about your lunch?
I'm on a diet.
What, again?
No, still. See you at the office.
All right.
Bye, Mrs. Conway.
See you back at the office, Ed.
Anything wrong, Mr. Shayne? I asked your assistant, Mr.
There was a
Shaw-
diary kept on the raft, Mrs. Conway. It's been stolen. I stopped by to see Radford. I think he has it.
Sorry I'm late.
You find out anything at the hospital?
Yes, one of the seamen died.
Who?
Dobbs.
He's the one who kept the diary. How'd he die?
They don't know yet. He was in a pretty bad way when they took him off the raft. They think he died of natural causes, but there'll be an autopsy.
What about the other one?
A man named Turner. Now, he was all right, so he was released the first thing this morning.
Did you get an address on him?
Yes, I checked his hospital admittance card. He gave a hotel, the Hotel Sherman, room 202.
Sherman Hotel, that's downtown.
Are you going to see Turner now?
He's the only one left alive. Whoever has the diary will try to get to him next.
Say, try the scallops. They're good here.
Shayne, I just don't know. This whole town all put together doesn't give me the trouble you do. Even the chief is on me. He wants to know why it is every time we have trouble, we find you standing right in the middle of it. Now look, Shayne, don't touch the body, don't disturb the room.
Gentry, I never touch a body and I never disturb a room. I go by all the rules. I'm just acting like any other law-abiding citizen should in reporting a crime. All right. So you don't see the connection between this and Tim Rourke getting slugged on the head, but I do. And now both of the seamen from the Raft are dead.
Look, Shayne, Miami has a pretty good police force. Now, we appreciate your cooperation, but we don't need your help. Shayne! Shayne!
I've got it, Sarah. I asked him to stay away from us.
Sorry to bother you, Mr. Radford. I wonder if you could explain a couple of things.
I've nothing to explain.
Your name and address was found in the hotel room of a dead man.
Well, I can't think how it got there.
Oh, I see. You have the diary now, so you don't care about the other seamen.
Why, he was here less than an hour ago. I sent him away.
Sure you did. You know something? He got so upset he went back to his hotel room, tore it apart, and killed himself.
Well, who is it, dear? Who's there?
Not a word to her. She's been through enough for one day. Sarah, this is Mr. Shayne. Mr. Shayne, my wife, Sarah.
How do you do, Mr. Radford?
How do you do, Mr. Shayne?
Sarah, Mr. Shayne is a private investigator.
I don't understand. What are you investigating?
Mrs. Radford, there was a question about the money. The inheritance.
Sarah, Mr. Shayne has been retained by Anne.
Tom.
Mrs. Radford, do you have something against Mrs. Conway?
Well, for one thing, her profession.
I didn't know that school teaching carried a stigma.
School teacher? Anne? A school teacher?
If Anne is a teacher, Mr. Shayne, she holds her classes in a waterfront saloon.
Are we talking about the same person?
We're talking about a barmaid in a gin mill.
Do you have any idea what caused that schooner to sink?
She wasn't seaworthy. Never should have left the dock. Jim was warned about that boat. Rusty, corroded, barnacle-laden. She hadn't been at sea in over 2 years.
Let's get back to the diary.
I've told you, I don't know anything about it.
All right, Mr. Radford, let's go for the big one then.
Put that down!
I
No
have
right
to. I'll
to-
apologize. Where's the diary?
I never had it.
You trying to tell me all you carry around in this briefcase are a couple of outdated books?
Yes, that's all. I guess I'm a little outdated myself. I don't get many clients anymore. And well, it always seemed to me that a lawyer should carry a briefcase. People will think you're successful, that you've got it crammed with papers, that you're on your way to court. You wouldn't want them to know it was empty. It would be awful if they knew. Even Sarah doesn't know. That's why I carry books in it, to make it look fat. Now you know I didn't want you to open that briefcase. I didn't want anybody to know about this.
I said I would apologize if I had to. But there aren't any words, are there?
Lucy and Mrs. Conway are in there waiting for you.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Shayne, I've made a decision. I'd like to call off the investigation. This is only going to bring grief to more people, maybe even to you. Excuse me.
I've got news for you, Mrs. Conway. You've already brought grief to me.
Well, as I was saying, the money isn't that important.
Oh, it isn't?
No, really.
Why'd you send your husband to Havana?
Why?
In a leaky boat that didn't have a chance?
Well, who told you that?
I was just guessing.
Well, you guessed
The
wrong.
only things got fouled up. You figured to send him on his birthday or a day after. But he jumped the gun by a week or so.
I don't think we have any more to talk about.
Now that you have the diary, Mrs. Conway?
Who said
Who'd
that
you
I
get
have...
to steal it for you? I don't like people who try to make a fool of me. I don't like you.
That makes us even.
You checked at the hospital this morning. You found out that Dobbs had given Rourke the diary before he died.
I had a right to that diary.
Who'd you get to steal it for you?
Somebody who owed me a favor.
Who?
So you can call the police and have him charged with assault because he had to get rough with Mr. Rourke?
He'll be charged with murder.
What are you talking about?
Turner, the other seaman, he's dead.
Well, how does it happen I talked to Turner less than an hour ago? He called me to meet him tonight.
You mean Turner's in the market to sell perjured testimony as to the exact date of your husband's death?
To me or to Mr. Radford, it doesn't matter which. But you see, now that I have the diary, his testimony is worthless to either side. I sent the man who stole the diary up to the hotel to tell him that.
You know what happened when your friend told that to Turner? A half-frenzied man who had just spent 10 days on an open life raft under the hot, blistering sun. He blew his top. He saw his chance at getting his hands on a small fortune slipping through his fingers. So he tried to get your friend to tell him where the diary was.
But he couldn't. You see, it's in a locker in the train depot, and I have the only key.
Turner didn't know that. So he started to work your friend over, only he overdid it. He killed him.
Maxwell is...
I thought it was Turner's body in that hotel room. It was Maxwell's. Mrs. Conway, there's one thing you forgot to check.
What?
The diary.
Why?
I just talked to Tim Rourke. In all the confusion this morning, there was one thing I overlooked. The exact date of your husband's death. It was the 12th, Mrs. Conway. The day before his birthday. The diary's no good to you.
You're lying to me.
Am I?
No, I don't think you are.
So you haven't killed anybody, Mrs. Conway. At least not that I can prove. And with Pete Maxwell dead, it can't even be proven that you instigated the robbery of the diary. So why don't you just get out of here?
Yes, do you want me, Mike?
Take a lesson from me, Ed. Before you accept a client, check on them.
I don't follow you.
Follow her. Ed.
She's in there.
Hello?
Yeah.
Who's he? Turner. Where'd you call from, Ed?
Nearest place, block and a half down.
Beat it back and call the police, will you?
Right.
I'm through playing. We're gonna do business or not?
I told you we were.
What about the diary?
I'll destroy it.
Well, there's something else. I've got a murder hanging over me now. I testify for you, then hang for killing Maxwell.
Well, I've thought of that. I'll tell them that he went to your room to kill you. You were just defending yourself.
You think they'll believe it?
Well, how could they prove otherwise?
You sure took a load off of me.
Let's go somewhere else.
What's the matter with here?
I don't like it here. Besides, you may have been followed.
Yeah, I'm all right. This is the diary, Mrs. Radford. It's going to mean a lot of money to you.
We thank you, Mr. Shayne.
I'm afraid I owe your husband an apology.
An apology? After bringing us that? And all that it will mean to us? It's a new lease on life. No, no apologies, please.
Thank you, Mr. Radford.
Mr. Shayne, will you come and see us?
Well, it'll be my pleasure. Thank you.
Sing a little Paris.
Hi there. My name is Mark Stevens. At this point, I'm supposed to make what they call a pitch for Michael Shayne. Well, as a writer, that should be fairly easy. I've been sitting in the office over my typewriter for about a half hour, and nothing happened. And I finally figured out there really isn't anything I can say, because it would be anticlimactic after what you've seen. I think the picture itself is kind of self-explanatory. Maybe add to that a little bit, give you our conception of what the series would be overall. You saw Lucy, my secretary, who was a very warm, very vivacious American girl. And there's the character of Tim Rourke, a working newspaper man. Will Gentry, who's captain of detectives of the Miami police, somewhat harassed, but a very nice guy. And then, of course, my assistant in the office, and out, Ed. Those are the running characters that you'll see each week in Michael Shayne. Our desire, and I think we've come pretty close to it, and certainly will continue to, is to have a very exciting and entertaining series, so that when the so-called trends go this way, go that way, or go the other way in television, people will continue to tune in, watch, and enjoy Michael Shayne. We want to keep him hard-hitting, strong, keep him exciting, but at the same time very sympathetic. Incidentally, speaking of Michael Shayne, just a short background on the character and the man who wrote Michael Shayne, Brett Halliday. These are his books. He first wrote the character of Michael Shayne in 1935, but was unable to get it published until 1939. That was 4 years later. Since then, subsequently, over 15 million copies. Now, that's a pretty astronomical, I believe that's the word, astronomical figure in anybody's language. 15 million copies have been published and sold of Michael Shayne up to date. So it must have a pretty big following. And Brett Halliday is considered one of the foremost, if not the foremost, mystery writer today. I think that about sums up Michael Shayne. I hope you like the film. We like the character, and we think it has great, great possibilities. So I guess that's it. Thanks.